The headlights cut through the darkness like searchlights. I stood at the window, my reflection pale against the glass, watching Preston's car roll into the driveway. 7:43 in the evening, right on schedule. He killed the engine. The sudden silence felt heavy, thick. Sloane emerged first, her heels clicking against the concrete, phone pressed to her ear. She was laughing. Preston climbed out next, stretching his back with a groan I could almost hear from inside. 5 days in Austin had left them tired but satisfied. I could see it in their faces, the glow of people who thought they'd won. Preston grabbed 2 suitcases from the trunk. Sloane ended her call and said something that made him smile. They moved toward the front door like actors in a play I'd already seen the ending to. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my hands were steady, perfectly steady. Preston reached the porch first. He juggled the suitcase to free his right hand, then dug into his pocket for his keys. The porch light caught the silver keychain, the one Margaret had made him last Father's Day, covered in crooked letters that spelled Dad. He slid the key into the lock, turned it. Nothing happened. The key wouldn't catch. Preston frowned, wiggled it, tried again. The metal scraped against metal, a grinding sound that seemed too loud in the quiet street. Sloane looked up from her phone, irritation flickering across her face. "Did you do something to the lock?" Preston's voice carried through the door, muffled but clear. Confusion, not alarm. "Not yet." Sloane pushed past him, tried her own key. Same result. The lock held firm, unforgiving. I watched her face change, confusion sharpening into something harder. She rattled the doorknob, pulled, pushed. Nothing. That's when Sloane saw it. The envelope, white against the dark wood of the door, taped at eye level where they couldn't miss it. Her hand froze mid-reach. "Preston!" The way she said his name made him look up. He followed her gaze. For 3 seconds, neither of them moved. Then Preston ripped the envelope free, tearing the paper as he yanked it open. His eyes scanned the words. Once, twice. The color drained from his face like water down a sink. "What?" Sloane grabbed his arm. "What does it say?" Preston's mouth opened. No sound came out. He tried again. Mom changed the locks." "She what?" Sloane snatched the note from his hands. Her voice climbed higher with each word she read. "The house has been secured. Your belongings are at secure storage facility. Do not attempt entry. Do not contact me directly." She looked up, eyes wild. "Is this a joke?" "Is she joking?" I raised my teacup to my lips, took a slow sip, let them see me through the window. Calm, comfortable, sitting at what used to be their dining table. Preston saw me. Our eyes met across the distance. His face went from white to purple in the span of a heartbeat. "Mom!" He slammed his fist against the door. The sound exploded through the quiet neighborhood. "Open this door. Open it right now." I didn't move, didn't blink, just held his gaze and took another sip of tea. Sloane started screaming, a high-pitched roar. She pounded on the door with both hands, her carefully manicured nails scratching against the wood. "You can't do this. This is our house. Our house." Lights flicked on in the neighboring homes. Curtains twitched. Mrs. Chen from next door appeared on her porch, clutching her robe closed. Preston didn't notice. He was too busy kicking the door, his dress shoe thudding uselessly against solid oak. "I'm calling the police." Sloane fumbled for her phone, her hand shaking so badly she almost dropped it. "This is illegal, breaking and entering, grand theft." Preston grabbed the doorknob with both hands and wrenched it sideways as if he could tear it free through sheer rage. The door didn't budge. He pressed his forehead against the wood, chest heaving. When he looked up again, tears streaked his cheeks. "Please, Mom, please. Whatever this is, we can fix it. Just open the door." I stood, set my teacup down with a soft click, walked to the window until I was close enough that he could see every line on my face, every gray hair, every year he tried to throw away. Then I smiled, not a warm smile, not a grandmother's smile, something else entirely. I raised my teacup in a small salute. "To your fresh start, son." Preston's legs buckled. He caught himself against the door frame, but barely. The sound that came out of him was animal, grief and rage and disbelief all mixed together. Sloane was already on her phone, voice sharp and demanding. "Yes, this is an emergency. Someone has illegally taken possession of our home. We need officers here immediately." I turned away from the window, walked back to the kitchen. Behind me, Preston's fists hit the door again and again, a rhythm like a dying heartbeat. But the sound was already fading, already becoming part of the past. To understand why those 3 sentences in that note destroyed him, you need to know what happened 6 weeks earlier when he forgot to hang up the phone. The bedroom was dark when my phone rang. 2:15 in the afternoon, according to the clock on the nightstand. I'd been napping. The new blood pressure medication made me drowsy at odd hours. My hand fumbled across the nightstand, knocking over the pill organizer, finally closing around my phone. Preston's name glowed on the screen. I swiped to answer, pressed it to my ear. "Hello!" But Preston was already talking. His voice came through clear, slightly distant, not talking to me, talking about me. "I'm telling you, Sloan, we need to do this now. The Riverside facility has an opening." My body went rigid, completely still. Even my breath stopped. "She's getting worse." Preston's voice was cold, clinical, the way you talk about a broken appliance. "Yesterday, she left the stove on. Margaret could have been hurt. And she's always there. I can't have a conversation with my own wife without her shuffling into the room." I should have hung up, should have said something, but my hand wouldn't move. My finger hovered over the red button, trembling, unable to press down. Sloane's voice came through tiny and faint. They had me on speakerphone. "It's not just that, Preston. I'm being honest. I'm exhausted. She's turned into another child. I have to manage the medications, the doctor appointments, the special meals, because her stomach can't handle anything with flavor anymore. I didn't sign up for this." Each word landed like a slap, clean, precise, devastating. "I know." Preston's tone shifted, became almost gentle, the voice he used when he wanted something. "We'll tell her it's temporary, that she needs more specialized care. She'll understand. And if she doesn't, then we do it anyway." A pause. The sound of ice clinking in a glass. "Mom doesn't have any other options. Where's she going to go? Back to that rat hole apartment in North Tulsa? She can barely walk upstairs anymore." The cruelty was casual, matter of fact, like discussing whether to trade in an old car or junk it entirely. "What about the house?" Sloane asked. "If we're selling and moving to Austin like you want, we need to act fast. The market's good right now." "Selling the house." The words echoed in my skull. "The realtor said we could get 850, maybe 900,000. Preston's voice picked up energy, excitement. "We list it next week. Get Mom settled at Riverside, and we're in Austin by August. Fresh start. Nobody knows us there. No obligations. Obligations. That's what I was now, an obligation to be discarded. She'll be fine." Preston took a drink. I could hear the liquid sloshing. "Riverside isn't terrible. And honestly, it's not like she has much time left anyway. 5 years, maybe 10 if we're unlucky. Then we can stop worrying about it. Stop worrying about it. About me. About whether I lived or died alone in some facility while they built their new life with my help, my labor, my 3 years of raising their children while they pretended I was family." My finger finally moved. I disconnected the call. The phone felt hot against my palm, or maybe that was my skin burning. My hand shook so badly I dropped the phone onto the bed. It bounced once, screen going dark. For 2 hours I sat there, didn't move from the edge of the bed. Outside my window the sun tracked across the sky. Shadows lengthened on the floor. My mind worked through everything. Every smile I believed, every thank you I thought was genuine, every time they'd said I was family. All lies. Pretty lies to keep me useful until I became inconvenient. The front door opened at 6:30. Preston's voice carried up the stairs. "Mom, you home?" I stood. My legs felt strange, disconnected, but I made them work. Made myself walk to the bathroom, splash cold water on my face, fix my hair. When I looked in the mirror, my eyes were different, harder, clearer. I went downstairs. Preston was in the kitchen, loosening his tie, scrolling through his phone. He looked up when I entered and smiled. That same warm smile I'd seen my whole life, the smile I trusted. "Hey, Mom, how was your day?" "Quiet," I said. My voice came out normal, steady. "How was yours?" "Exhausting. Conference calls all afternoon." He kissed my cheek. The touch made my skin crawl. "Something smells amazing." You cooking pot roast. Your favorite. I'd put it in the slow cooker that morning, before everything shattered. You're the best. He squeezed my shoulder. What would we do without you? I smiled back, matched his warmth degree for degree. I don't know, honey. What would you do? He laughed, didn't hear the edge in my voice, didn't see the calculation in my eyes. He just grabbed a beer from the fridge and wandered into the living room, already forgetting I existed. I stood at the stove stirring the pot roast, and knew exactly what I had to do. The next morning I waited until Preston left for work and Sloane took the kids to school. Then I called a number I'd saved months ago and forgotten about. Taryn Vasquez, elder law attorney. She'd given a presentation at the senior center about protecting yourself from family exploitation. I'd thought it was paranoid then. Now I understood it was survival. Law offices of Taryn Vasquez. My name is Cordelia Price. My voice shook despite my best efforts. I need help. My son is trying to put me in a nursing home and sell the house I live in without telling me. A silence on the other end. Then, can you come to my office today? Yes. 2:00. Bring any documentation you have, especially anything related to the house, bills, receipts, any papers they've had you sign. I showed up at 1:45 carrying a folder stuffed with 3 years of my life. Taryn's office was small but organized. Law books lined the walls. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Tell me everything. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. Don't leave anything out. So I told her about the phone call, about Preston's plans for Riverside, about the house sale and the fresh start in Austin, about being called an obligation, about him calculating my remaining years like an expiration date. Taryn's expression hardened with each sentence. When I finished, she leaned forward. How long have you lived there? 3 years. Have you contributed financially? Labor, child care, everything except rent. The words came faster now. I cook almost every meal, clean the entire house. I pick up Quincy and Margaret from school, help with homework, take them to activities. When they're sick, I'm the one who stays up all night. I've paid for repairs, the dishwasher, the back fence, new gutters. I have receipts. She made notes, her pen scratching furiously across a yellow legal pad. Oklahoma recognizes implied contracts and unjust enrichment. You've provided substantial services in exchange for housing. If they try to force you out, we have legal standing. She looked up. But that's defensive. Do you want to just protect yourself? Or do you want to do something about this? I thought about Preston's voice. Nobody knows us there. No obligations. I want justice. Taryn's smile wasn't kind. It was sharp, predatory. Then let's get creative. We spent the next week digging through paperwork. Taryn requested documents from the county recorder's office, called Preston's mortgage company, tracked down the accountant who'd handled their refinance 2 years ago. I kept playing the dutiful grandmother, cooking, cleaning, smiling until my face ached. Preston and Sloane noticed nothing. They were too busy planning their escape. Then Taryn called me. Cordelia, sit down. I found something. What? When they refinanced the house 2 years ago, they added you as a co-owner for tax purposes. The accountant said something about gift exemptions and estate planning. They probably don't even remember doing it, but it means you own 1/3 of that house. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. I own it. 1/3 ownership, which means they cannot sell without your signature. And given your contributions over the past 3 years, we could argue for more. But here's what I'm proposing. She laid out a plan. So perfect. So precisely designed to make them feel exactly what they tried to make me feel, that I laughed. Actually laughed. For the first time in weeks, something in my chest loosened. When do we start? I asked. Tomorrow. The legal papers were filed on a Tuesday, quiet title action asserting my ownership interest. Simultaneously, Taryn sent a certified letter to Preston and Sloane's realtor, informing them of pending litigation and advising against any sale. The listing that had gone live 3 days prior was pulled from the MLS by Thursday afternoon. Preston called me from work, his voice tight and confused. Mom, something weird is happening with the house. The realtor says there's a problem with the title. Oh, I kept my tone light, concerned but clueless. What kind of problem? She won't explain details, something about ownership disputes or liens, or I don't know. It's probably just paperwork confusion. Did you sign anything recently? My heart hammered. No, honey. That sounds complicated. Maybe you should talk to a lawyer. Yeah, I'll figure it out, he sighed. Don't worry about it, okay? Probably just a clerical error. Okay, sweetheart. See you at dinner. I hung up and pressed my hand against my chest, feeling my heart race beneath my palm. He didn't suspect me. Not yet. I was still just confused old mom, too simple to understand adult business. 3 days later, Preston came home with papers in his hand and murder in his eyes. We're being sued. He dropped the papers on the kitchen counter like they were contaminated. By Taryn Vasquez. She claims you have an ownership interest in our house. I looked up from the carrots I was chopping, let my face show confusion, worry. What? That doesn't make any sense. That's what I said. He ran his hands through his hair, making it stand on end. But there's documentation, some papers from the refinance. They're saying you're a co-owner and we can't sell without your consent, but I let my voice trail off, frowned like I was thinking hard. Wait! 2 years ago, didn't you have me sign some papers? You said it was for taxes. Preston's face went pale. Those were just, he trailed off, realization dawning. Oh God! Sloan appeared in the doorway. Did you tell her? She signed the papers when we refinanced. The accountant put her name on the deed for the gift exemption. So take her name off. Sloan's voice was sharp. Fix it. It's not that simple. Preston slammed his hand on the counter. There's a lawsuit now. We can't just... He stopped, looked at me. Really looked at me. Mom, did you hire this lawyer? I met his eyes, let the mask slip just a fraction. Why would I do that, Preston? Mom, why would I hire a lawyer to protect myself from my own son? And let the silence stretch between us, sharp and ugly, unless I had a reason to. Preston's mouth opened, closed. His face cycled through emotions, confusion, understanding, denial, rage. You heard the phone call. You heard us talking. I set down the knife, wiped my hands on a dish towel, took my time. When I spoke, my voice was calm, dead calm. Every single word. Sloan made us sound like she'd been punched. Preston just stared. You talked about me like I was garbage to be disposed of. You counted down my remaining years. You called me an obligation. My voice didn't shake. You planned to dump me in Riverside and run away to Austin with money from a house I helped maintain using labor I provided for free while raising your children because you were too busy building careers. Mom, we didn't mean. Don't. The word came out sharp as a knife. Don't insult me by pretending. I heard exactly what you meant. So here's what's going to happen. This house will be sold at fair market value. My third goes to me, and you two can figure out your fresh start without stealing from me first. We spent the next 3 weeks in legal warfare. Preston and Sloan hired an attorney, Marcus Webb. Expensive suit, expensive office, expensive smile. He tried to argue that my ownership was nominal, that I'd never intended to exercise control, that I'd signed the papers without understanding their meaning. Taryn destroyed him. She presented documented evidence, receipts showing I'd paid for repairs totaling over $40,000 across 3 years, testimony from neighbors about my contributions to the household, medical records proving I was mentally competent, that my medications caused drowsiness but not confusion, timestamped security camera footage from the Ring doorbell showing 3 years of me taking care of Quincy and Margaret, walking them to school, bringing them home, staying with them when Preston and Sloan worked late. The judge reviewed everything, looked at Preston and Sloan over his reading glasses. The evidence is clear. Mrs. Price is a legal co-owner with a 1/3 interest in the property. That interest must be honored in any sale. And when Marcus Webb tried to argue, Your Honor, my clients believed, what your clients believed is irrelevant. What matters is what they signed and what Mrs. Price contributed. The house will be sold, and proceeds will be distributed according to ownership percentages. If your clients wish to dispute Mrs. Price's percentage based on her contributions, we can hold a full trial. But I should warn you, the evidence suggests Mrs. Price's share might actually be larger than 1/3. Preston's face went gray. Marcus Webb closed his folder. We'll proceed with the sale as ordered. The house listed properly on March 15th. Open houses started that weekend. Young couples walked through admiring the marble countertops and the backyard pool, imagining their future lives in rooms I'd cleaned and maintained. Multiple offers came in within a week. The market was hot, exactly like Preston had said. The final sale price was $890,000. My third came to $296,667. Preston's face when the escrow officer handed me the check was something I'll never forget. Not anger anymore, not rage, just hollow defeat. Like watching everything he'd planned crumble to dust in front of him. I took my check and walked out. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't look back. 2 weeks later, I closed on a small condo in Tulsa. 2 bedrooms, updated kitchen, quiet neighborhood with walking trails. Paid in full, no mortgage, no one who could take it from me. I had money left over, enough to hire a caregiver who came 3 times a week, enough to live comfortably for years. I joined a book club, signed up for painting classes at the community center, made friends who invited me to lunch without checking to see if I'd be useful first. Preston and Sloan moved to Austin in early June, took their portion of the money, and disappeared into their new life like they planned. Except now their fresh start was built on half the foundation they'd expected. They didn't call on my birthday in July. Didn't send cards at Christmas. I heard through Facebook that they'd bought a house in the suburbs, smaller than they'd wanted. Sloan had to take a job that paid less than her Tulsa position. Preston was traveling more, home less. Quincy and Margaret sent drawings sometimes, crayon scrolls that said, "Love you, Grandma," in uneven letters. I wondered what lies Preston and Sloan had told them. Probably that Grandma was sick, that Grandma needed to live alone, that Grandma chose to leave. Never the truth, never that they tried to throw me away like trash. 6 months after they moved, Preston called. I almost didn't answer. His number was blocked, but it came through as unknown, and curiosity got the better of me. "Mom!" His voice was strained, desperate. "We need to talk." I waited, said nothing. "It's about money. Things here they're more expensive than we thought. The mortgage is higher. Property taxes. Everything costs more." He took a shaky breath. "And Sloane's job fell through. Company restructuring. She's working retail right now. Just temporary. But you need money." My voice was flat. "Just a loan. 50,000, maybe 60. You got so much from the house sale. And we're family. And no." Silence, long and heavy. "Mom, please. We're drowning here. We might lose the house. I know things got complicated before, but complicated." The word tasted bitter. "That's what we're calling it. I'm sorry." "Okay. I'm sorry for what we said. We were stressed. We didn't mean." "You meant every word." My hand tightened around the phone. "You meant it when you called me an obligation. When you counted my remaining years like a prison sentence. When you planned to dump me in a facility and forget I existed. That's not. You wanted to be free of obligations, Preston. Congratulations. You are." "Mom," I hung up. He called back immediately. I declined. He called 17 more times over the next 3 days. I blocked his number. A week later, Sloan sent a Facebook message. Long paragraphs about struggling, about the kids missing me, about hoping we could reconcile. She said they'd made mistakes, but they were family. That family forgave. I read it twice, looking for an apology, for acknowledgement of what they'd done. Found none. Deleted it without responding. 3 months after that, I heard through a former neighbor that Preston and Sloan had sold their Austin house at a loss. $70,000 underwater. After less than a year, they'd moved back to Oklahoma, renting a small apartment in Norman. Sloan was still in retail. Preston's pharmaceutical job was unstable. Something about clients remembering his reputation. Doors that wouldn't open anymore. I felt nothing when I heard. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just a distant quiet sense that the universe had balanced itself. Sometimes at night I still think about Preston as a little boy, the way he'd climb into my lap after nightmares, small arms wrapped tight around my neck. The way he'd hold my hand crossing the street, trusting me completely to keep him safe. The way he'd tell me I was the best mom in the world, his voice fierce and certain. I mourn that child. I grieve for the man I thought he'd become. But I don't regret what I did. One evening in late November, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I moved to the window and looked out carefully. Taryn had taught me to be cautious. What I saw made my breath catch. Quincy and Margaret stood on my doorstep. They'd grown. Quincy was taller, his face losing its baby roundness. Margaret had cut her hair short. They each held handmade cards, the edges ragged like they'd been torn from a notebook. Behind them, 50 feet back in the parking lot, Preston sat in his car. He didn't get out, didn't even turn off the engine, just sat there watching his children knock on his mother's door because he was too much of a coward to face what he'd done. I opened the door, tried to smile. It came out shaky. "Grandma!" Margaret launched herself at me, her arms wrapped around my waist, and she pressed her face into my stomach. "I missed you so much." Quincy held out his card, his eyes red-rimmed. "Dad said we can't see you anymore unless you help us, but I don't care. I wanted to give you this." My hands shook as I took the card, construction paper folded in half, covered in crayon drawings of flowers and hearts. Inside, in careful third-grade handwriting, "I love you, Grandma. I'm sorry you had to leave. Please come back. Come back, like I was the one who'd left them. Can we come in?" Margaret looked up at me, her eyes so much like Preston's used to be before they turned cold. "Please." I looked past them to the car. Preston was on his phone, deliberately not watching, using his children as weapons, as leverage, the final manipulation. And I had to choose between justice and mercy, between protecting myself and protecting them, between punishing my son and loving my grandchildren. It was the hardest choice I'd ever made. I called Taryn the next morning. "I need to set up visitation, legal, formal, protected, for the grandchildren. Yes, every other weekend here at my place. I'll supervise, but Preston and Sloane don't get to use them as bargaining chips. This isn't about money. This isn't about reconciliation. This is about Quincy and Margaret having one person in their lives who won't abandon them." Taryn drafted the agreement, visitation rights for the grandchildren, supervised at my residence. Preston and Sloane had to sign, had to agree to boundaries. Any violation meant immediate cessation of contact. They signed. They didn't have a choice. They needed free childcare more than they needed pride. So every other weekend, Quincy and Margaret come over. We bake cookies, do homework, watch movies. I teach Margaret to paint. I help Quincy with his reading. They tell me about school and friends and the small hurts of growing up. They never ask why I don't come to their house, why I don't talk to their parents. Maybe they understand more than I think. Maybe they're just grateful someone still wants them. I don't know if I did the right thing. Some days I think I should have refused, should have let Preston and Sloane understand that actions have permanent consequences, that you can't use people and expect them to keep loving you. But then Margaret laughs at something silly, or Quincy falls asleep on my couch with his head on my lap, and I know I made the only choice I could live with. I didn't forgive Preston. I never will. But I refuse to let his cruelty poison my grandchildren's lives the way it poisoned mine. That's not mercy. That's survival. It's been 18 months since I changed those locks, since I watched Preston's face crumble as he read that note. I sleep better now than I have in years. My condo is small, but it's mine. Every inch of it. No one can take it from me. No one can decide I'm inconvenient and throw me away. I've built a life that doesn't require me to be useful. The book club meets on Thursdays. I've finished 3 paintings. Amateur work, but mine. I have coffee with women who don't calculate what I can do for them before they smile. Sometimes I see Preston's car in the parking lot when he drops off the kids. He never gets out, never tries to talk to me. Maybe he's ashamed. Maybe he's angry. I don't care which. Last month, Sloane sent another Facebook message, longer this time. She said they were struggling, that life had been hard, that they'd learned their lesson, that they hoped we could be a family again. I read it 3 times, looking for an apology, for acknowledgement of.